Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for hanging with me on this Monday. And if you've taken some time out of your busy schedules to support the channel, I really do appreciate that. All right, so vertical presentations as we get into the end of the summer, beginning of the fall, the water's still relatively hot. You're gonna have water mid to low 80s, and the days aren't getting shorter yet. So those fish haven't really been given the signal to start pushing in the backs of the creeks. So you really have a mixture of fish that are coming off the main river channel, but they're just not really deep into the creeks yet. And the creek fish really haven't started showing up yet either. So for that reason, the fishing is fairly tough. And I think you are fishing for a lot of fish that have been fished for a lot. You know, they're smart. They've seen a lot of chatterbaits. They've seen a lot of big worms. They've seen a lot of finesse baits. So I really think it's important this time of year to be fishing a vertical presentation, because for whatever reason, they just can't get a good look at it. You keep it in the strike zone, so I think it really makes them mad. It entices them to bite, but they're not getting a great look at it. So I've done other videos talking about a heavy jig as one of my favorite fall time baits, but that's more of a cover oriented bait. You're not always necessarily going to have cover on your lake. I like to fish shallow this time of year because I feel like those fish that are up in 2 feet of water really haven't seen a whole lot of baits the last couple months. But if you don't have cover or shade on your lake for those 2 foot or less bass, you're really not going to have a big population of fish in that depth range. So for that reason, it's more about fishing vertical techniques. Now, Texas rigs and jigs would be the most obvious, and those work really well on calm, sunny days. But if you have a lot of wind, it's really hard to fish a jig or a Texas rig, especially if you're flipping or just dragging that around, you know, stroking it, whatever you're doing. But you're trying to fish slow moving baits on windy days doesn't really work. So I have a couple baits that I like to start bringing back this time of year, great springtime baits. The first one being a lipless crankbait. That is one of those baits that has always been a big fish bait, doesn't matter what time of the year. And this is the time of year where you will find a lot of fish that are just the wrong size. You know, you're catching a ton of bass, but they're all 2 pounds when you know you need 3 pounds and bigger. And a lipless is one of those baits that is a vertical presentation most of the time. It's one of those baits that if you read about it or you've ever fished it, you know how important the yo-yo retrieve is. And that's the bait, you know, falling, getting picked up, falling, picked up. And you really can keep that bait in the strike zone. You can fish it around any type of cover or structure, and you're keeping it in front of them. And that vertical technique, there's something special about that. So a lipless is one of those baits that I really like to yo-yo. Anytime I pick up a lipless, I have seen it where the yo-yo doesn't always work, but I'm starting with the yo-yo. That's typically your most consistent way to get bit on a lipless. If they're not biting the lipless yo-yoed, then I will, you know, reel it, kill it, reel it fast, kill it. Another great way to entice bites, or just a straight retrieve. But you got to realize that when that bait hits the water, it is still falling. You know, it is not just a straight retrieve back to the boat, even when you are just straight retrieving. A lot of times it's up and down and up and down. So it's one of those baits that this time of year, it's tied on, and I'm going to throw it, basically not cut it off until after the fish get done spawning. So great wintertime bait, but it's a really great fall time bait too when you have a lot of wind. A spinner bait is another one of those baits that if you do dive deep or you fished it enough, you know how important the yo-yo technique is with that. You know, getting in the right water column, the best way to do that is yo-yoing it. So you throw it out there, you may feel a little bit of contact with the bottom, you reel a little bit faster. As the bank slopes off, then you can, and you'll feel it come down the side. You know, it's basically going to go like a wave, just come down the side of the bank. Great way to keep that bait close to the bottom while still being a vertical presentation by going up and down. So those are two baits this time of year. Everyone knows about them this time of year. They get talked about a lot, but that yo-yo retrieve is super important, I think, for enticing bigger bites. If you throw baits that are just going to come straight back to the boat and they don't really do a lot of that vertical action, you're just not going to get the quality bites. This time of year, it's very important to trick those fish that are come wise to all the fishing pressure. try that. Good luck to you guys, and I'll see you on the water.